What's up, everybody? How you doing? This is Bobby A, and this is another episode of What's Bobby A Got to Say. Today, my guest is Dr. Eric Binder. I've known Eric for about 13 years now, and he's got a great story. He was in high school when I met him, and now he's in Chicago, and he's tearing it up. He's an excellent musician, phenomenal drummer, and so much more. So, without further ado, Eric Binder.
How's it going, man?
Good to see you, man. So, how's things out in Chicago way?
It's pretty good. It's raining right now. It's a bit chilly, but nothing out of the ordinary for Chicago.
Well, that's cool. You know, I've traveled many places, but the one place I have not been to yet is Chicago. I've driven through it, but never made the stop yet. So
I didn't go here until I moved here. I never been to Chicago.
How's the scene out there? Like, musically and.
Pre-COVID, it was really good.
Yeah.
As with most places, there's a plethora of gigs all over. So Chicago's cool because, it's kind of like New York in that you have this metro downtown area and then it just spreads out and keeps going way into the suburbs. So you could be doing gigs downtown, or a lot of gigs that I do are actually out in the suburbs and, out in the different areas. You got Indiana pretty close to you, down south Michigan.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different things.
Well, I know who I'm going to come hang out with when I finally make it out to Chicago. And, besides the music scene, I know we have, a lot of great food culture there. And, I'm all about the New York pizza, but I know Chicago makes their own kind of deal. And it's a good thing that they got going there too. And of course, I would be remiss if I wasn't going to talk about prohibition and dudes like Al Capone and stuff. There's so much history there. And as we're going to get into a little bit later, going deeper and doing knowing the history of things really helps to project where you're going to go in the future.
Correct.
So I want to start just to give a little background to people watching this. I first met you, I believe you were still in high school, and I was a manager at a drum department, the drum department manager at a music store here. And you would come in like literally every day.
Yeah.
And you would have some item that you were looking to sell or trade or, very, very entrepreneurial at such a young age. And that's how I got to know you. It's like, here comes Binder, because you just were bringing stuff every day. It's like, where's this kid getting this stuff? And I caught on that you were, you had a business. You were scouting, you were checking things out and picking things up here and on eBay. And I'm like, wow, this kid is 15, 16, 17 years old, whatever you were at the time. And he's really going for it. And it was really like, I was impressed by that at that time. And then, I see that you move out of the area, you go off to college, and, it's, Philadelphia, I think first you went.
Yeah.
And then, next thing I know, you're Dr. Binder. And you have incredible CDs and groups that you're leading. You're digging deep into the culture and the art form, and you're also, being featured in things like Modern Drummer, with your books that you've written. So, why don't you fill in the gaps there? Give us a little synopsis of your journey.
Yeah, man. So, it was about that time. I think I moved up to Albany in 2005. I was a junior in high school, and I lived down by the city in Putnam County. I was born in the Bronx, so I was down in that scene, but not really doing much with music. I did music in high school, and, I was always a garage band drummer, and, Rush, Dream Theater, play covers and that, but I was never really, professionally taught in any way. That's kind of how I met Rocky. I stumbled into his shop that he had in East Greenbush, and we got talking, and I think I might have done one lesson with him, but at that point in my life, I was, thick-headed and, thought I just was fine the way I was. Or, you know, I just played the drums. I didn't really care to study it or anything. So that's kind of how I lived it on until college, actually. You know, my parents said I either get a job or go to college. And I was like, well, I like music, so I guess I'll go to college for music. You know, that's a terrible way to get into it. But, you know, so that's that part of that story. As for the flipping stuff, yeah, man, that's, you know, Guitar Center on Wolf Road. I lived there. That was like, you know, the spot. And I got into that because of the way my parents brought me up. You know, we weren't, you know, I won't say we were struggling or anything. We were comfortable, my family, and my parents and me. We didn't do without anything. So, you know, we had that situation. But the great thing that my parents did when they brought me up is that they made it so that if I wanted something, I had to work for it. I didn't just get handed things. You know, if I want, they bought me my first drum set, which was a little CB, you know, with no floor tom, and you know,
same thing. I had the same one.
Actually, I set it up. I'm lefty, so I'm left-handed, and I set it up, you know, as a lefty would. And my dad had come in, and my dad was a big rock and roll head, and you know, been to thousands of concerts. So he had this vision of seeing drummers playing right-handed, you know, the correct way. Yeah. And that's what he said. He said, "Oh no, that's not right. You're set up the wrong way." So I'm okay. Yeah. And then I set up the other way. So now I'm a lefty playing right-handed. But
I didn't know that. I didn't know that you were
lefty. Yeah, very much. It's interesting with you know, leads around the kit and stuff. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'll stumble over something because of a cross or something, but otherwise I really like the way the left-hand lead flows around the drums.
Oh, Ringo is, you know, has classic drum fills from, you know, and that's the way he played. And of course, you know, there's the whole open-handed drumming thing that's Carter Beauford and Ryman Phillips and Billy Cobham. Valero, you know, all these guys. And, you know, actually, I just changed my setup to start exploring that stuff. You know, I got a ride. I got about 5 rides on this cymbal, on this drum set right now. Yeah. And, you know, just doing a little test this morning, I was like, oh, yeah, that is kind of cool. You know, so it's just more about, you know, not limiting yourself. But I like what you said about your parents putting that work ethic into you, because you know, that might have been one of the best gifts that they ever gave you, because I see how that's playing into your current career right now and your current, you know, go get it attitude, because if you want it, you have to go get it.
Exactly. Yeah, that was something I learned very early, and going through schools, you know, this might be another conversation, but, you know, I had sort of a bad experience in schools and music and stuff with people. You know, I won't say I was a great kid. You know, I was kind of wild and, you know, did what I wanted to do. But there were a lot, I can't say all teachers, because there were a select few teachers that really believed in me and, you know, guided me. But for the majority of the time, it was, you know, teachers that were thinking that I was just a waste of time. And, you know, even up through college, I went to college in Albany at the College St. Rose. I also went to Schenectady Community College, which was incredible. Yeah. So any musicians in the Albany area looking for music, SCCC is like
definitely
a top program in the country. Yeah. You know, having been out, you know, Philadelphia, New York, Chicago, I was out in LA for a little bit, like, you know, SCCC is serious. It's heavy. But when I got to St. Rose and stuff, I had this, you know, I have tattoos, and at that time I was playing metal. Yep, exactly. I was playing death metal and touring in death metal bands. Yeah. So, you know, and I was in the Conservatory of Music studying classical percussion. Right. So there was this whole thing of, you know, the teachers thinking that it was just like, you know, a joke what I was doing there. I had teachers tell me, well, not me directly, but that I was never going to be a good educator and never going to get anywhere and stuff. So, you know, but honestly, that stuff fuels the fire more than anything.
Absolutely. And, you know, there's a great story, and I'm glad you bring this up, because that's a motivator for a lot of people. You know, a lot of people who are not beaten down by it, there's two ways you can go. Some people take it and they stay down and they never rise above that. Some people use it, like you just said, to fuel themselves. Yeah. And it reminds me of a story of Michael Jordan, accepting, I think you could actually find this on YouTube, accepting, some prestigious award for being, who he is in sports, Michael Jordan. Mm-hmm. And he actually flew out his high school basketball coach or some coach he had along the way that told him, you're never going to be professional or anything, in terms of basketball.
Yeah.
And he put him right in the front row, and he accepted his award, and he pointed to the guy and said, see, you were wrong about me.
Yeah.
Stop and listen up,
So, greatness comes from inside, you have to have that in there, but a spark, which you have, needs the fuel. And the perception that you had to be able to use that in a positive way is, I think this is the 4th or 5th episode I've done of these, and I think in every single one, I always say, take adversity and turn it into advantage.
Yeah.
You absolutely did that. So good for you on that. And, I think that what you've been doing is proof to anybody that you don't take no for an answer.
Sure. Yeah. 100%.
Even the fact, like what you said, you were playing death metal, but you decided to go to a place where you would learn classical and conservatory music. I mean, right off the bat, that means your mind was already way open to everything, that you weren't closed-minded. As a matter of fact, it seems like maybe some of the educators you came across were closed-minded and stuck in their ways.
Yeah, and that's unfortunately how it is at a lot of places.
Right.
There's this stigma that if it's not classical music, that it's not, valid in a lot of places. That's like, classical is like, the uppity art form, and then everything else is just kind of like, you're a rock drummer, you're a jazz drummer, you're a metal drummer, you just mess around and play music.
Yeah, I liken that to book smart versus street smart, and they're both, any knowledge is knowledge.
Yeah.
But when you can find a way to blend the both, that, to me, that's where you're more accessible to people, because if you just stay in one or two of the others, you're closing off the other side. So when you can merge them, you might be able to go talk to the street guy and impart some, book knowledge on him, and vice versa. He might open your mind to some street smarts. So and you grew up in, you're from the Bronx, and so like, that kind of comes with the turf.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it's interesting because, the book smart stuff, I didn't read music until college.
Wow.
When I auditioned at SCCC, Rocky will tell you, my senior year of college, I had made this decision middle of the year that I was going to go for music. I'd try to get into SCCC, and I didn't read music. I didn't play mallets. I didn't do anything.
Wow.
So I studied with Mr. Bonville, actually, and learned the minimum level mallet piece I had to, and I wasn't a reader, so I memorized it. And at the SCCC audition, there's sight reading and oral skills and all this stuff that I didn't even know really existed or was a thing. So I got in, and I just barely made it based off of my playing abilities, certainly not any of the book smart stuff. And I bombed the ear training stuff, and at the time it was Dr. Meckley who was there, and he had said, we'll let you in, but you have to take this oral skills course over the summer and get an A in the course. So I did that, and it was a whole new world, but spent my graduated summer from high school in SCCC 5 days a week, and learned the oral skills, got the A, and it was tough. It was SECC was really an eye opener for me, and it was pivotal. It was almost like I almost left a lot of times and said, music is, I don't think it's for me, you know, as a career.
Mm-hmm.
And then at other points I was like, yeah, this is really what I want to do.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until my second year there that I kind of figured out. And then I decided to transfer to St. Rose and do music ed. At that time, I thought I wanted to be a K-12 music teacher. And, you know, it was a lot of catch up in college.
It's great because it's a journey, and you were just learning and embracing it as it came, and you were adjusting, pivoting, fine tuning till you got to where you are now. And now you're Dr. Eric Binder.
Yeah.
I mean, how many books do you have out now?
3 books. Yeah.
Okay. And a couple of them were recently just featured in Modern Drummer, right?
Yep. Yeah. The 3/4 rudimental rundown and 10 snare drum etudes for improvisation were featured.
And your books are not just like these, let's get started on drums books.
No.
Your books go deep. Your books are exploring fresh content that really comes out of your own mind, and your experiences. Which brings me to another topic that I really wanted to discuss with you, is you go deep. I've been watching, your posts on social media, and you're always sharing with people jazz musicians and records that you're listening to, that you're exploring, drummers that you're into. And this is what I love about you. It's not just drummers. It's all kinds of musicians. But you're not just giving the surface level stuff. You're like, have you checked out this record? I can't keep up with you, man. I really can't.
Yeah, man. I guess it's an obsession. When I got into jazz, it fueled this obsession of this history, this rich and dark history at a lot of points. And that's kind of a fear of mine, is that I won't know or learn something that's would spark an interest or move me into another place. And when I do something, or play something, I want to know where it came from from the person before, and trace it as far back as I can, because I feel like, you're only scratching the surface and you're learning one aspect or one interpretation of something, where, there's so much more. And that level of exploration leads you in so many places, So you can't see, but to my left, I have a floor to ceiling stack of CDs. Okay. And I'm big into CDs. So I'll take a CD out, and if it's something new, there's a great Mal Waldron, but I'll look through. The reason I love CDs is because you turn around and you see everything about the CD right there. Right there, yeah. And I could see, Mal Waldron, Eric Dolphy, Burker Irvin, Ron Carter, all these names. And if there's a name that I don't know, I'll look that name up. And then I want to see who else they played with, what was their career like. And it's interesting in this jazz realm, because there's so many of these musicians that don't have a history, and they were just there. And it's like, today we have everything documented, but back then the documentation of things was so terrible. So you don't know. This person could have been a killing musician, but just never had the marketing skills or got into the correct circle of people to get their name at the same level of Eric Dolphy, Ron Carter, whatever. And that interests me the most. And then I find these webs of, this person played with this person, and it brings me to new music. And that's in the jazz idiom especially, my favorite thing is to find Blue Note and Prestige era records of people that I just don't know. And most of the time it's absolutely killing stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's very reminiscent of today and how things happen. At the end of the day, it really is a popularity contest for who's the face of whatever rock jazz at the time, because and that's something we really need to understand and learn from, because as we with social media and all this stuff, we're getting spoon-fed a lot of information, a lot of great information, but where that can stop us is if you don't have that mind to research and want to learn more. You'll see whoever it is, X name metal guy, this is the best metal guys. You know, a lot of people will just take that.
For face value, right.
This is the best metal guy. I'm going to use this as my reference point, whatever. But there are thousands of guys under his name that didn't make it to that top spot that are
right.
Sometimes even better. And then there's the whole slew of names that didn't even make it onto the, you know, the B list.
Right.
That are out there. You know, there's always that, you know, talk about like Jimi Hendrix was the greatest guitar player of all time. And, you know, but there could have been a kid in his basement that shredded Jimi Hendrix, that parents didn't believe in music as, you know, a career or a good hobby, and he never got discovered. And, you know, so it's humbling in a lot of ways, but it sparks that research side of things for me.
That's really a great point. And, you know, it reminds me of back in about the late 90s. I first went to the news school in
yeah.
And I only went for a semester because something clicked in my mind. It was phenomenal school. I was doing well in it. I was getting good grades. It was a great experience. But something clicked in my mind. Well, one, I felt like everybody wanted to be Elvin Jones in the school, and that nobody was really interested in finding, I mean, the people that I was around, maybe I wasn't there long enough to discover it, but nobody really seemed like they were interested in being themselves. And what ended up happening was I left the school because I realized, man, I am going to be like $150,000 in debt by the time I'm 21 years old to try to live in New York City, to try to be a jazz musician. You know, let's face it, you know, it wasn't like jazz music still, you know, I don't know if they ever really made, not everybody's Miles Davis, let's put it that way,
No.
you know, in terms of sales in the jazz world. So it just didn't make sense to me. So that's when I kind of shifted to just living in the city. What I did was I collected some names of the teachers there, and I just started calling them up and going to their homes for private lessons.
Exactly.
And one of the guys I studied with was Horace Arnold, great jazz drummer. And he told me one time that when, you know, Max Roach brought him to New York City, and he came up with guys like Tony Williams, Billy Cobham, and, you know, guys of that era, Lenny White, you know, stuff like that. So he told me there was a guy, and this is to make your point because I don't even remember the name of the guy.
Yeah.
Okay. But he said this guy that nobody knows the names and was never on the records, this guy was the guy. This is the guy that showed Tony things that Tony is known for, you know, and I'm not by any means taken away from the brilliance of Tony. He's probably, you know, definitely my top 5 favorite drummers ever. But, you know, everybody has a place where it comes from. And now you're talking a little bit about the music business, and, you know, marketing yourself and getting your name out there, so to speak. So, you know, the art world and the business world, you know, don't always mix too well. And the people that learn to balance it, just like we were talking about before, that learn to balance the street smart and the book smart, they find that medium. Now you, as long as I've known you, you've been very entrepreneurial, and you run yourself like a business, but you have the art value there too. It's really, really remarkable to see.
Yeah, it's interesting. I can honestly say that I've always had a business skill. I don't know where that came from exactly, but my parents always would tell a story, and I remember it too, of being a kid in Putnam County and selling everything to friends in the neighborhood. I mean, I used to get a CCS catalog, which is a skateboard catalog, and I was obsessed with that at the time. But they'd have like the brand logos in the catalog for, you know, Birdhouse skateboards or Flip skateboards, and it'd be their little logo. So I'd cut that logo out, and then I'd use contact paper, and I'd sell kids stickers to put on their helmets.
Wow.
And this, we're talking, you know, middle school at this time.
Wow.
And, you know, another story my parents tell me is, you know, I used to ride quads and dirt bikes, whatever. I'd get muddy and stuff. So we'd always leave our clothes out on the pool deck to dry out and hose off. And I had done that a few days before, and I had a pair of sneakers still sitting out of there. And this kid from the neighborhood came over. We were hanging out, He's like, oh, those are cool sneakers. And my mom said that I responded, hey, you want to buy them? And I think I sold the kid the sneakers for $10 or something.
Man, you're taking the lemonade stand to a whole nother level, bro.
Oh, man. I mean, so we lived on a cul-de-sac in Mahopac, was where we lived in Putnam County. And there was a main street and then our cul-de-sac. And I used to take a table and like a cart full of crap that I had, you know, Beanie Babies, stuffed animal, whatever. And I'd set up on the corner of the street with a table and just try to sell shit. Because it was that work ethic of if I wanted money, I had to earn it. I started working, you know, at like 11 or 12 years old we had like this school program where people in the neighborhood or whatever got checked out and then they put jobs in there and then you'd make 15 or 20 bucks. So I'd been doing that. And then the day I could get my working papers, I got working papers. I worked in a big catering hall as a bar back.
Yeah.
You know, I was always working. And I think that work ethic before the music even really started built into the music, you know, and I think that's the work ethic I have now comes from that.
Well, this drum set that you see right behind me here, I bought this drum set when I was 15 years old, like 1992. It's a Tama Rockstar Pro.
There you go.
And I refuse to get rid of this drum set. You know, it's dated. It does not look like anything, you know, you see in the magazines today.
Yeah.
But one, it still sounds really good. Two, it sound kind of, you know, cliche. They don't build them like they used to.
Yeah.
And you know, like this is really kind of rugged for the, you know, mid-level kit that it was. But the real reason why I keep this drum set, and I have about a half dozen, I don't even want to go there with you. I know you got drums, but I got about a half dozen, you know, higher end kits that I use on gigs and stuff in the other room. But this is the first drum set that I bought myself, worked an entire summer when all my buddies were at the beach or, you know, whatever they were doing. My family had an Italian restaurant and I was washing dishes and busting tables to be able to buy this drum set.
Yep.
And I can't get rid of it for that reason alone. What's up, everybody? How you doing? This is Bobby A, and today I'm going to show you how to play the 13th stroke roll. The 13th stroke roll goes like this. Right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left, right, and then you repeat with the other side. Left, left, right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left, right, right, left. Okay, let's see what we can do on the drum kit. I'm going to play a samba ostinato between the bass drum and the hi-hat so we can create sort of a Latin vibe with this groove. And that's your Root a Minute with Bobby A. You know, that value of working, it's not just, you know, you need that in every aspect of your life.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
But especially if you want to be a musician, which, let's face it, it's always been hard to be a musician and to be considered, you know, a worker or, you know, part of the workforce.
Yeah.
You know, maybe, you know, oh, you play for a living, you don't work for a living. You know, like nobody realizes. I mean, you at least have the title of doctor.
Yeah.
But the hours that go into
I know.
craft, you know, nobody sees that.
Nobody understands. I mean, and I think that's really a problem in this country specifically, that we don't appreciate art. It's kind of a duality because they appreciate, you know, Americans appreciate art in the sense of they couldn't live without it.
Right.
An artist designed their iPhone that they hold in their hand every second of the day.
Right.
What you watch on TV, Netflix, Hulu, all these were created by graphic artists, you know, writers, mute the music for it. You get in your car, you put on the radio, streaming music, which is a whole other topic. But, this is all art. Mm-hmm. And, in this country, for some reason, we can enjoy that art, but we don't credit it or, financially back it the way we should. Yeah. But, that just seems like a kind of a trait that we have. And it's like that, not to go in this direction, but Black culture, as Americans, we take Black culture and we use and appropriate it, but we don't give credit to African Americans or do what's right in that side of things. And it's like that with art and music too. And, I have multiple friends who live overseas, and I have one buddy who is a jazz musician for a career. Like his government recognizes jazz drummer as a valid career.
Right.
And he makes enough money, he doesn't even teach. He makes enough money with, the programs they have over there with touring and music sales and stuff to support a family.
Yeah, that's great.
And, in this country, and it's not specific to this country, but it's just higher in this country. It's like, starving artist.
Right.
Is as real as it gets.
Do you think that it might be due to the fact that the country is still relatively young, and that, when you look at some of the Asian countries, like a country like China has been, has had culture for 4,000 years or something like that, So, we're a relatively new country, and, the sort of the two biggest art forms or the two biggest exports that Americans have produced so far are jazz music and baseball, right? So I wonder if it has anything to do with that. I do agree with you, especially I'm glad that jazz music is recognized worldwide and that it came from America. But like you mentioned before, there's a lot of dark history what led to that. And
Yeah, I mean, jazz, I can completely comfortably say that, it's African-American music, 100%. Knowing the history of, this music early down through, late 1800s, early 1900s, these musicians that are creating stuff and white musicians are stealing it and getting paid more. A lot of Black musicians didn't even get paid. If they did, it was significantly less than these white musicians who stole the music that these Black musicians created, and that's a whole thing. But, as far as why we don't appreciate art in the same way, it's interesting, and I don't understand it either. It just seems like as a whole, this country doesn't like to spend their money on the arts in that way. And I don't understand why, because we love art. Yeah. In schools, what's the first thing to get cut?
Oh, of course, right.
That to me is a whole other thing too. It's like, music got me through school, and it's such an important, music and art is just to express yourself freely is to me an essential part of growth and development from kindergarten.
Yeah, that is.
And I honestly can say that Pythagorean's theorem didn't do what music and art did for me.
Right.
So,
exactly.
And not even because I pursued a career in music. It's just music and art teaches you about every other subject.
I was just going to say.
Within that, there's the history, the English, the literature, math. Oh my God, the math.
Math, right.
And
discipline. The one discipline of music and art really teaches all the other disciplines that are relevant at the time.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when you go back to the great civilizations and cultures of humanity that is documented, what's documented really, it's documented somehow into art, in an artistic way.
Yeah.
We don't know every citizen that lived in Rome during the Roman Empire, but we know the buildings, and we know who Caesar was because of the paintings, and things like that.
Anthropology is all about you know, artifacts and that history.
Right. So when the thing is that a lot of people don't recognize, there's that saying of like the good old days. People don't recognize that the good old days are now. Like you're living the good old days. You know, you just haven't got to that point where you can go back and look at it, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, trying to be creative all the time and not always, you know, okay, we happen to be professional musicians. When you put professional to it, okay, we have to make a business out of it. But just creating good things that will last. And a good thing can be a physical good thing, or it can be, you know, inspiring somebody through education, you know, giving them knowledge. You know, what we're doing now, we're making a podcast, a video that hopefully somebody sees and gets one little nugget at. And that's creation. And that creation has the power to shift everything. And that's where we need to, you know, we want to shift it towards the right thing while we're here.
Yeah, and you know, that it's totally, I agree. That's kind of my philosophy with what I do. It's like, obviously we all want that notoriety and recognition and to be loved by everyone, because we all have that ego in us that, you know, even if we're not an egotistical person,
right,
we all have an ego in us. But for me, and what I've really tried to target, what I want out of a career in music is just to inspire somebody. I don't need to inspire everyone, but as long as somebody gets inspired and gets something from it, then I feel like, you know, I'm doing me. And the other thing is being true to who I am as a musician and a person. I'm never, no matter where it lands me, if it's, you know, I don't have a career or whatever, I'm not going to be untrue to myself and who I am as a musician. And, you know, that's just part of it. It's, you know, Elvin was like that. Elvin played how Elvin played. And people didn't like it. There was so many, you know, negative reviews and thoughts. And now, you know, it's so funny because look at today, you know, Elvin Jones is like the name. In drums. And
that's what I said before, right? Like when I was at the school, everybody wanted to be Elvin. I had the opportunity to meet him a couple of times and hear him play live a couple of times. And every instance was a force of nature. It was palatable, but like energy. It was just palatable energy.
It's so funny because everyone wants to be him. Everyone wants to be Tony. Everyone wants to be, you know, Roy. But those guys just wanted to be themselves.
Exactly.
And that's it. I mean, have you ever seen, I have it on VHS, Different Drummer?
Of course, yeah.
This for me is key because when Elvin's explaining stuff, you can show that it's not from an analytical perspective. He's playing what he feels. And when he talks about 3-card Molly, talks about the melody, creating.
I read over here, right?
Exactly. He's not talking, you know, oh, well, I'm doing double stops and paradiddles and this is groups of 3, and it's not there.
Right.
It's from a more conceptual, artistic approach. Of what he feels and stuff. And that's why, you know, truthfully, I don't really transcribe drummers ever. You know, I might hear, listening is my biggest thing is, you know, I do a lot of listening. And so it inherently comes into, you know, into play. But if I'm going to sit down and learn something, I'm going to learn from a horn player or somebody, you know, pianist or something where I'm learning the melody and the lines. And because for me, that's the language,
right?
You know, that's really the language of jazz and what's being spoken, and the drums is the interpretation of that language. You know, someone like Kenny Clark and Max Roach took that, you know, melodic and harmonic approach from Dizzy and Bird, and he put that on the drums, and that's how Max's, you know, rhythmic language came to.
Really
but you know, I totally, with transcription, you know, you're at the beginning, I totally agree with it because you're jumping into it blind. How are you going to learn? You know, you want to learn Italian, are you going to buy Italian for Idiots book and learn it, or are you going to talk to somebody who's fluent and really learn the language? So, you know, that's kind of how I approach it. You know, my early students and myself starting out, I did some transcribing and stuff, but it was really listening. to the music and deep listening and studying the horn players and the piano players that, helped me grow.
Yeah, that's great. And Carl Allen says exactly the same stuff.
Oh yeah.
Exactly. It's a language, and you have to immerse yourself in it if you really want to learn it.
Yeah, and that's such a hard point. I've posted about this many times, of getting these students to understand this. In my improv class, I assigned a transcription, and I try to be open-minded with it. I say, 2 courses of blues or 132 bar form, you pick. That way, if they're, someone's interested here, they could go there, wherever they want to go. But I guess it was a rookie move, but all the students ended up just finding a transcription online and then just reading it. But that, it's mind-blowing to me, because what do you get from that?
Right.
If you just take a transcription and somebody else did that work of listening, the person that did the transcription is going to be in real good hands, but you're just reading it from more of a technical, or using it as an etude. Totally cool. You get your reading chops up, but to actually learn the language, you're not going to get anything from just reading somebody else's transcription.
Right.
I always tell my students, it's like, with the Italian thing I just told you, it's like if you go to, if you buy, Rosetta Stone or one of those things, and you learn a language, and then you go to that country or wherever they're native speaking and you try speaking, they're going to be like, what?
Yeah. Right.
Wow. And it's like that with jazz too. And, it's a language that you have to learn by being immersed in the records and playing with other people and communicating. And that's what's interesting about this pandemic. I was just talking to a friend, 8 months of not doing that with people, not having that collective in the moment experience is just detrimental. You could practice we all practice every day, all day, but that, playing live with other musicians
Socialization,
improvised setting, that is really what's being challenged at this time.
Yeah.
The ability to react in the moment.
Who was it? I think it was Max Roach that actually said, he didn't like the term jazz music.
Yeah.
He called it social music.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. And, to your point, being stuck at home, you can play and get your chops and discover, I changed my whole drum set because I'm bored. I need to try something,
Yeah.
But it's like being in jail in where in a cell by yourself with no interaction. You're gonna forget how to socialize.
Yeah.
8 months later.
Yeah.
Or a year later.
It's
a good point that you make. I want to circle back to that one thing you said about the transcribing and how a lot of the students just went and basically cheated. First of all, they're only cheating themselves. But second, I tell all my students, because the question, am I doing it right? Yeah. Am I doing it right? I'm like, you tell me. Yeah. If I give you the answer and you're not really knowing it, I'm just giving you a fish, but not showing you how to fish. And so I use that classic line, if you really, give you a fish to eat for a day, learn how to fish, you can eat for a lifetime. Yeah. And so some of those classic one-liners, they're really true, man.
It is, it's this whole thing. The biggest thing, number one, is somebody has to want to do it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So I studied with Dave Clarko. Mm-hmm. That was his number one phrase is, do you want to do it? Then do it.
Yeah.
And, that was, that's always a big one for me because it's very true. And what I do teaching college students, sometimes I want to pull my hair out because I feel like I'm so invested in them and what they're doing. And I need to take a step back and realize that, and I was talking to Carl Allen about this, that they might not share the same level of passion for what it is. So you can't get so, worked up and hurt when
I know.
They don't share that with you. And it's tough. And honestly, that's why I really don't do a lot of beginning. I don't, enjoy it as much, to be honest, because, you know, and not that anyone is not as passionate, but
Right.
the passion I share sitting there, you know, trying to get, you know, an eighth note to line up, for me, you know, I want to be talking about how does Elvin play eighth notes in comparison to Max Roach, in comparison to Art Blakey, you know, the subtlety of the placement of the beat and how it makes the music feel and how it makes that, you know, the drummers feel overall, you know, different from another. Absolutely. It's that conceptual, deep study that I really enjoy.
It's like, you know, when I was thinking about a couple of things I wanted to talk to you, the first thing that came up, the word deep.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the theme, because you go deep, and just what you just described, and the type of student that you enjoy working with, and just the way you look at the drumming.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I teach music theory, and I teach, you know, composition and stuff, but I don't ever go beyond a certain point with theory. I pass them off to somebody else. So I'm very comfortable with music theory up to a certain point. And I'm kind of obsessed with beginning music theory and those fundamentals. Yeah. So I get that totally, you know, it's different for everyone. So, you know, with drumming, I like to have the conceptual students, and I like to give somebody else the starting point. And then theory, I'll take the starting students and then pass off beyond that.
Very great.
So that's just like that. And that's why we all work well, and we can have this community of, you know, educators in what we do.
Well, it's a great community, and hopefully we can get the rest of the world to catch on that, you know, doing things out here. Why don't we talk about, I wanted to talk to you about your albums.
Sure.
You know, you as a leader.
Yeah.
Let everybody know the names, where they can get them. You know, just give us a rundown of that.
Sure. So my everything is available at ericbinder.bigcartel.com. With my books and my CDs, I've really gone for more of the you know, self-publishing for many reasons. It just, in today's world, you know, as we're doing right now, recording a podcast and you're going to post it into the world, that wasn't possible, you know, 10 years ago or whatever, at least at this quality. So same with publication, you know, there was a point where, you know, you needed somebody to get it out there and sell it. But now with all these online tools, the Big Cartel site, I honestly have sold books and CDs all over the world, and just doing it myself here in Chicago in a high-rise apartment. So everything's available through that site. My latest record, well, I have one coming out, which is a trio live record. But the latest record that was out was Hard Bop. That was with Walter Smith and Pietros Klampanis. That was all of my original music, and you know, composition for me is kind of second to playing the drums. That's something I really, really, really love. It's a whole different expression. You know, I sit at the piano and I play things, and, you know, it connects to emotions, and, you know, that's another thing. But so that's my trio record. Prior to that, I did a trio record with Joel Fromm, New York City tenor, and Malcolm Cecil, who is, you know, bass player, one of the most wonderful human beings I've ever met. He is absolutely a plethora and wealth of knowledge, and he's the sweetest guy ever. He's always down to play. He loves it, and he's had an illustrious career. So, you know, Malcolm's great. And then prior to that, I did a duo record, which was a different area of exploration for me. And I've had some, you know, sideman things and some of my earlier records, which, you know, as you grow as a musician, you look at those and you cringe a little bit, and you're like, oh, you know. But the reason
we all have that, but that's how you know you're growing.
Exactly. You know? And that's what I was about to say. I had a professor in Philly, and his recommendation was record a lot, as frequent and often as you can, and put it out. A lot of people will record stuff and just keep it kind of hidden, but his advice was to treat every project like a major project.
Yeah.
You know, you record it, put it out there, do some get some publicity on it, whatever, because that is a stepping stone to the next thing, and to the next thing, and to the next thing. And it's really true. You learn so much each time.
Yeah.
Putting out a record is like so stressful. There are so many little intricacies of things that if you don't do them right, you know, you won't get airplay, or you won't get reviews, or this and that. And that's kind of essential. Unfortunately, you know, the role of putting out music today isn't the same that it was. You know, you used to put out music to get people to come to your concerts and sell records and stuff, and now honestly you're really putting out music as kind of like a business card.
Yeah.
And it's a bummer because it's not cheap. You know, you're talking, you know, flying either to a location or flying people to your location, you know, putting them up for a night, or, you know, transportation. You have the studio cost to use the studio, someone to mix, master, pressing. Then if you want to get into, you know, the publicity, you hire a PR person, which could be insanely expensive, you know, and mailing, shipping, all this stuff. It is a huge undertaking and a learning experience. I am no expert. I will tell you, each record that I put out, I learned something new that I wish I had done. With Hard Bop, I felt most accomplished. Yeah. You know, there's still things I wish I did a PR campaign on that, but with COVID, I, you know, just didn't have the bread to do that. Yeah. But I think I felt most accomplished with this record on timeline and things. It's so, there's intricacies. Like if you don't get your record to Apple Music within 3 months of release, you won't get a position, and, you know, blah, blah, blah. There's all these little things.
Crazy, man. It's always an uphill battle for musicians, but you know what? You know, you're a very young guy. I don't even think you're 30 yet. Are you even 30?
Yeah, I'm 30. Yeah,
oh
30.
my God. You're 30, you're a doctor, you have 4 or 5 albums that you self-produced under your, you know, under your own name and leadership. You know, you're teaching college level people. You're writing incredible books. You're getting reviews, and you're not laying down for anybody. You're doing it your own way. It's a struggle. It's an uphill battle, but you're doing it, and that's an inspiration, hands down. Anybody who's not inspired by your story, you know, really needs to think about what it really takes to do anything with passion, with love, with heart, with quality, with excellence. I mean, you're an you know, very, very impressive young man. And I can call you a young man now. I'm 43, so you know.
And it's not without its struggles, right? And you know, that's something that people need to understand. Is it's not pretty at all. You know,
there's no glamorous.
No.
You know, we do it because we love it.
That's
it. I mean, really.
Yeah.
Musicians are sick people.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Sadistic, man, because we just keep on taking the punches, but we love it. And you know, it comes down to this too. It's in us.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's just like the blood that runs through our veins, and everybody in the world has that something.
Yeah.
It might not be music. So the real job of every person that is born is to try to find out what that thing is.
Exactly. That is the most.
Just jump, like Dave said, if you're gonna do it, do it.
Yeah.
You know.
And it's just something, you know, as terrible as that can be for me some days, where, you know, I feel so defeated or really down on, you know how it is, you know, we all feel this way as musicians. We could sound, you know, amazing to somebody else, but you analyze yourself 1,000 times harder than anyone else. Yeah. So there's those days, and, you know, the ups and downs are crazy. But at the end of the day, I was talking to my brother about this. I just couldn't see myself doing anything else. Yeah. Even if it meant, you know, a secure paycheck and health insurance and all this stuff. Yeah. I just know that I'd be miserable.
Yeah.
Not dedicating my life at the level that I have to specifically Black American music.
You would not be living your best life if you settled for something else just for the sake of comfort.
Exactly.
You know,
It's a fight.
Same story here, man. I mean, if I didn't, I could have had like 150 pizzerias by this point in my life. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know, like,
Yeah.
but you know, that's just not the path I wanted to take because, you know, that's just not who we are. But I'm going to wrap it up here a little bit, but let everybody know what's on the horizon for you. Let's talk about, you know, 2021 post-COVID or, you know, what do you got going on?
So COVID hit at the absolute worst time for me. I mean, everyone, it sucks for everyone, but you know, I had planned this out in a way. I recorded Hard Bop and I had plans for Hard Bop, you know, in 2019, end of 2019. So 2020 hit, we recorded in January out in Brooklyn, and I had this whole thing scheduled. I had tours scheduled, you know, I was supposed to be out in New York actually this Thanksgiving doing another tour like last year. Summer was going to be really busy. I was, you know, blah, blah, blah. So COVID hit and it shot that down. And it was a bummer for me because that record, I put so much effort into that record for that reason, to kind of springboard the other things to happen a little easier. So, you know, everything's canceled, you know, we're all in the same boat. So, you know, my hopes is that COVID will subside soon and, you know, allow us musicians to be active. But I have this trio record coming out. It's the first of a series. So in New York, they have Live at Small's Live, and Smoke Sessions. And they have a lot of venues that are putting out live albums, which is awesome. But we don't have that really in Chicago. So I worked with the creative director at Fulton Street Collective, Chris, and talked about releasing this series, Live at Fulton Street Collective. So this was a show we did live streamed actually at Fulton back in November. And it's a second set of tunes, and this will be the first Live at Fulton Street Collective.
Great.
So to hopefully spark some sort of similar thing as those, you know, aforementioned places. But other than that, you know, not to get dark, but it's bleak right now with teaching. You know, my hopes. I'm an adjunct professor at 3 colleges, and if you know anything about adjunct teaching, you're the low of the low when it comes to it. You know, I do the job of a full-time professor, but I get paid and I get the benefits of, you know, somebody that doesn't have a job basically. So, you know, doing that sucks. And the whole point of doing that is to build yourself a resume to get to a full-time, you know, professorship. So that's where it's looking really bleak for me is, you know, what is that going to look like? Is COVID going to affect, you know, people going to school for music because, you know, they see how fragile things are. But I'm confident, you know, we can't live without art, and I'm confident that, you know, that will get better. So, you know, there's that. But really it's been writing a ton of music during this lockdown, and, you know, I'm thirsty to do a lot of things and making the best of the situation. So
and
hopefully
you're the guy that you know, you land on your feet. You're smart. You're a hard worker. You have all the tools it takes to survive anything. I'm going to give you the nickname Cockroach. And I mean that in a loving way, because you're going to survive.
Can't kill him.
You know?
Can't kill him.
You know, and you know, like I said, you know, when I do these interviews, I choose people that have something to offer that can be inspiring to somebody. So your story is great. Your story is what every musician, high-level musician, is going through in 2020.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's thank you so much for sharing that and you know, being open with us about your story. It's been my pleasure to get to know you for the past 13, 14 years.
Yeah, man, same.
And, you know, I just know some more fantastic, great things are gonna be coming down the pipeline for you, and I'm really, really excited to watch that. And I suggest everybody watching this, please go check out Eric Binder's cartel.com. How's that?
EricBinder.bigcartel.com.
what he just said. Go get a couple of his records. You will not be disappointed. Drummers, go get his books. Because if you really want to challenge your brain, this guy's a doctor.
They still challenge my brain, so.
Okay.
The books are hard.
So, Eric, thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
And stay well, stay safe. We'll do this again, and the next time you can show us your vintage drum collection, because that's another podcast in itself.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody, this is Bobby A. Thank you for tuning in to What's Bobby A Got to Say. Don't forget to like, subscribe, press the button, say hello to your mother for me, all those kinds of things, okay? Thank you very much. Thank you, Eric. And everybody have a great rest of your day.